Good day and welcome to Quilting with Don 2024. I'm Don. This is the second episode in the series, and in this episode I'm going to get to work on building Bursting Forth. As you can see here, this is what I'm aiming towards, give or take, because over here is what I'm actually working towards, which I showed you in the last episode. This pattern is by Barbara H. Klein. This book by Barbara Klein is called Simply Triangles. But you can also get more information on this pattern and on Barbara and all the other things she's designed at her website called delightfulpiecing.com. And I'll show you the words, delightfulpiecing.com. So go check that out if you like what you're seeing here, if you want to get more of it, or if you want to find this pattern. I've been busy since you saw me last. I wanted to get more comfortable with what I'm doing and how I'm building the triangles, diamonds, and shapes for this pattern. So first of all, what I did is I completed the first cut here, and I'll show you a close-up. Then I built another one using the actual colors I've chosen, this time in green. So let me show it to you because it leads me to a couple conclusions. First of all, you can see here, I had already built this green and I had put the netting on. Then to make sure everything lined up right, I built the second half of the triangle, which is this higher leveling arch here. I used orange because I'd run out of the gold. I didn't want to dig into any more of it. But the point was to show how these seams can and do line up. So I'm happy with that. I also, when I was building it, because I was doing a few bit of unsews because I wasn't happy with the way things were working, and I put the mesh on the wrong side for the upper half. This mesh should be on this side. All right. Now, here's the second one over here that I did using the greens that I intend to use from my stash. And you'll see here, you've got the 4 shades of green, light, medium, and then dark. And oddly enough, they're over here as well. The light, medium, and dark. And they're much darker. This, I changed up. Whereas here, I used this black netting, and I wasn't happy with the way the black netting was sewing. It was giving me grief when I did this section over here. It was shrinking a bit. The iron melted it a bit. I wasn't happy with it. And took extra special care. So I went back to the fabric store, and I got an organza style of netting or fabric. This is a polyester organza, and it's not bad, but I find it's a bit dark. It doesn't look so bad on the camera here, but in natural light, this side is much darker than this side, and I think almost a little too dark. It's also this organza that I found is a bit shiny, and I'm not sure I like the shiny, shimmery aspect of it. So what this has caused me to do is go online and order some more silk organza. That we saw there was polyester organza. Silk organza, I believe, is thinner, lighter, and it should still be easy to sew. I ordered it yesterday. Apparently, it's coming in tomorrow, so I'll be able to report back to you and see how it works. So what I've learned from these sewing is that the pattern and the templates do work. They provide good shapes, things line up, and the idea works. Right, thought I'd give you a quick tour of my quilting studio, such as it is. So, standard ironing board, dining room table with the Singer 99K machine I'm using for this project. Large cutting mat on which you'll see I've organized my cut fabric, and I'll get to that in a bit. And then the scan and cut, because that's how I'm cutting most of the fabric based on the templates I already acquired and downloaded. The cutting mat, work area, and of course, this fabulous Singer sewing machine. You'll see here the green screen that I used. This will be replaced eventually by a design wall when I start laying things out. Isn't that cool? And then off camera is where I've moved everything else because I took over the dining room, and all the dining room chairs are now shoved into the living room. And the living room is not being used. This is the nature of the beast when you use your dining room and living room area for quilting. The other thing I've been busy with is using the scan and cut. Now I'm not going to bore you with watching the scan and cut work. It works like it's supposed to work. I will show you here a few of the cutting templates I made that I then ran fabric through. Most of my cutting was done on the 12-inch by 24-inch cutting mat, maximizing the amount of cutting I could do per session, but also it made the length closer to what the existing fabric I used was. So I wasn't taking out chunks of arbitrary size. I was actually using as much of a vertical slice of each piece of fabric as I could, maximizing what I had left over for other uses. Okay, third point on that, or second point, is that I don't think I saved time using the scan and cut. Between designing the templates, running the machine, massaging the fabric to make sure it's stuck, I probably would have got this done just as quickly, if not quicker, using the method pointed out by Barbara Klein, which is you cut your strips, then you use your templates, and you cut the shapes you want. So I don't think I saved time. But what I did do, and I'm convinced of this is create equal shapes across all the colors, equal consistent shapes. So, and I've proven to myself that they work. And therefore I'm looking forward to when I start sewing that things continue to line up and that I get nice, even joined corners where there is no wonkiness. So that's where I'm at right now. Day 2 now of my quilting adventure for this particular bursting forth. And 3 things have happened in the last 24 hours. First of all, I've been wrestling with this 1/4 inch presser foot that I bought online. No matter what I did, I couldn't stop it from occasionally binding the fabric at the back of the foot. So the fabric would feed in and then it would bunch up at the back. Sure, I could put in leader fabric like I've done before, or I could press on the front of it and it somehow would cause it to shift. But it just was not worth the effort to use this particular foot. And so I was ready to go back to the original foot, which is an 1/8 of an inch presser foot, which I could use, eyeball it, do my 1/4 inch seams. But then this morning Carolyn said, hey, actually it was last night, hey, I happen to have acquired somewhere along the line a short shank 1/4 inch presser foot, which is what this machine would need. And I'll show it to you. Because it works great. I've tested it and I'll show you that in a sec. So here it is. Here's the 1/4 inch presser foot I'm using. Sorry about all the reflections there. Hopefully you can see it here. There we go. It's plastic, but it works. The one that wasn't working is this one here. There we go. And it's got the little guide on it, but I just couldn't get it to work. No matter what I did. Adjusting tension, removing the presser foot spring so it would float better, even notching where it mounts with the screw so that it was riding a little higher because I thought it was binding. Couldn't figure it out. So that's the first thing. Sorted presser foot. Second thing is, I've been doing some sewing because it works great. And once again, here's what I've done so far. I've been working on the greens. And I've sewn packages of the left and right sides of the bottom triangle. I'm still to sew the upper sides and the middles. Oh, third thing. It turns out you can break an ironing board. Because I did it. Our trusty old ironing board we've had probably for 30 years. I broke it. I was ironing, maybe pressing too hard. All of a sudden, it went right to the ground. I thought, oh, maybe the mechanism just slipped. Nope, no, I broke a stamp or a weld on it. So I looked at it, it's in pieces, the weld is broken, and it was a cheap board to begin with. So I said, that's it. I could try to jury rig it, I could try to fix it somehow, but it's just not worth it. So I went out and bought another ironing board. This one time it's a good quality one. Cost more than I thought it should be. Cost $120 for an ironing board, but it's a nice one. And it's a full width ironing platform, nice for sewing strip sets. It's not one of those shorter ones that has a little metal thing out to the side for holding your iron. Don't need that. I want a full width ironing board. So that's it. We're chugging right along here. I'm going to keep sewing with this BC and go from there. This is now the end of day 3 of working on bursting forth. I started sewing in my bathrobe again this morning, so there we are, I'm hooked. I got all the sewing done that I can do without actually having to do any of the organza work. I don't have it yet. It's supposed to arrive in a couple, 3 days. So let me show you what I did. And here we are. So I'll stand up a sec here so you can actually see it. You'll see here the piles of green, blue, and red patterns. I've sewn them all. They went really well. Total about 6 hours today, plus a few, maybe an hour or two yesterday, or well, it was more than that. But anyway, the point is, it's going pretty well. I had a few miscuts that I discovered as I was sewing, so I had to break out the scan and cut a few more, not many, 3 or 4 I think, maybe that in total, pieces. So that was pretty cool. So as per usual, I'm going to treat myself. Last night I went to a beer tasting event, a master class they call it, but it's really just trying different beers at our local location called Cascadia. And it was a Belgian, okay, they called it an international beer night, but of the 6 ones we tried, 4 of them were from Belgium. So I was definitely in my element because I do love my Belgian beer. It allowed me to then purchase another case of one of my favorite beers, this Chimay Bleu, which we tried, but I know it very well. It's one of my favorites of all time. Also tried some Delirium, some cool stuff out of Austria, Stiegel, which I really quite enjoyed. One out of Ireland, from O'Hara, which was actually a stout, an Irish stout, that I find better than Guinness. So I'm going to switch to that, I think, from now on, because it was really quite good. Just a more stouty, rich flavor than your Guinness. Guinness is good, don't get me wrong, but this was better. But anyway, here's to happy sewing. Alright, it's 3 days since I showed you something. Now, 3 days ago I received my new organza fabric. And then I filmed, I'm going to show you now what it looked like. Unfortunately, the main microphone was off on the camera, so you'll have to put up with the sound you get from my little phone. But here you go about the new organza. Here are the 3 organzas, or rather the 3 fabrics. Oh, I'm not going to chat it. So here are the 3 fabrics I've got so far. This is the original nylon netting. Very light, certainly darkens it just a bit. This is the shiny organza I had before it's polyester. And this is the one I just got, it's silk. By feel, it is smoother and thinner than the polyester organza, so it's already a better material to sew with. Apologies for the shadows there, but you can see it's a bit lighter on the white here, so that it's a little less of a tone. Now, watch it with how this looks on fabric. You'll see the difference. Follow further so you can see netting, silk organza, polyester organza. There isn't much of a difference between these two, but you can see with the fabric lines, we feel the variations green, they are more noticeable on this one than they are on this one. So it is letting more light through, it is letting more color through. So I know it's a win. Okay, success. So you can see this is the one I sewed with the polyester organza. And this is the exact same piece now, well, set up with the silk organza. See how this is lighter than that? There's more definition coming through in the fabric. And there's no shimmer either. Now you might also notice that I'm wearing a different shirt than usual because spring is here, summer is here, is around the corner. And one of my buddies shamed me into starting to wear my Hawaiian shirts because he started wearing his. So I said, well, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. So it's back to Hawaiian shirt season. Yay. In the last 3 days, I've been doing a lot of sewing with the new organza, and I've actually covered the organza on all the greens, all the blues, and I've just started on the reds. And in the process of doing that, I've learned quite a bit about working with organza. So this nice filmy material, very nice, but what is unique about it with respect to, or when you compare it to cottons that we sew with for the quilts, there's a lot of give in the diagonal direction, a lot of bias flexibility. So that really posed quite a few challenges. You start with the piece of fabric, and the instructions tell you to use 4.5 by 6, or rather 4 inches by 6.5 inches organzas. Look at that, it just happens to fit nicely over that. So then what I do to make sure that things don't pucker is I pin it in 3 places, and I put the pins, not like you'd expect when you're pinning fabric together to stop the seams from shifting. I'm going to put the pins this way, and this way. That stops the fabric from separating and/or it makes sure it stays flat with the organza. The second thing I do is I iron everything. I iron the underlying fabric once, I iron the organza, make sure everything's flat. And then I sew it all the way around the edge. And what you do when I'm doing it is I make sure that the fabric, which is square, I cut it square, stays square. That way I know that I'm not causing any stress on the organza, and when you sew it, it's not going to cause the fabric underneath to pucker. So I pin here, nice and smooth, and then make sure that it stays square. There it goes. Okay. And I pin another one, another direction. Keeping the organza square. And you'll notice that I'm pinning inside where the seams are going to go. So I don't have to remove the pins as I sew. Making sure it's staying flush. Oh, I just pulled the pin out. Oh, and there goes Whiskers. Get her ready. There we go. And so, here's what it looks like now. It's been pinned, and it's relatively square all the way around. And then I'll sew it and cut the organza back, and I got a perfectly sewn patch. And I just keep repeating that for all the reds. Doesn't that machine sound great? And it's hand crank near the end, keeping the needle down. That, and turn the corner, and do the next stretch. The other thing I should have pointed out is a very light fingers on the organza. You don't want to stress it in any way as you're sewing it, otherwise you'll pull it out of shape. Very light finger. You see, there we go. I finished the last pieces with the organza, so I'll show you that in a sec. But I realized I could give you a quick update also on what's going on around here. The weather is beautiful. Spring is here, summer is just around the corner. We're getting nice warm days. I've even planted some grass seed. But 2 days ago I had my last ski day. So here's a shot of me wearing my styling 30-year-old ski suit that I rock. I've been rocking for about 30 years. But let's now have a look at what I did. Here we have all the sewing I've done so far. So you can see that this will make a triangle, these two will make a triangle, and so on. There are a total of 15 of these triangles each, 9 of the greens and 6 of the reds. That's the pattern. So we'll see how this comes out. But it's gone pretty well. You can see the contrast between the organza and the non-organza, and so on. This will be the end of this episode of Quilting with Don. I've shown you from start to this, I wouldn't say finish, from to this point where I'm just before ready to start putting things on the design wall. So in the next episode, I will finish each of those triangle shapes. Then I'll lay them on the design wall and begin the assembly process. And in fact, next episode you should have more or less the majority of the finished top. But we'll see how it goes. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, don't drink and quilt. And stay tuned for the next one. Cheers.